Okay, for this afternoon, we'll follow on from yesterday's briefing, and today's briefing is in progress. So we'll look at the weather map. On the weather map, this is the tropical cyclone Gita with the 105 knots wind at the center, and it's moving westward. It's also predicted to go further to the west, slowly dip down west-southwest, and go down towards New Zealand. On the satellite map, at midday today, the severe tropical cyclone Gita was located just south of southern Laos, and it is moving further to the west, and it is going to go down towards New Zealand. Okay. Now, at 2 p.m. this afternoon, severe tropical cyclone Gita was located about 60 kilometers southwest of Laos, or about 390 kilometers southeast of Kandavu. It entered the Fiji waters this morning and passed approximately 50 kilometers south of Laos at around 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. It continues to move west about 25 knots and expected to continue on this track for next 24 hours before it starts to gradually turn west-southwestwards. On this map, tropical cyclone Gita still remains a category 4 system, and if you see that the red zone is the destructive hurricane force winds zone, and the lighter one is the destructive storm force wind zone. So southern Laos, part of southern Laos and the Laos has gone through the full brunt of destructive hurricane force winds, and the other islands nearby have gone through the destructive storm force winds. The damaging gale force winds expands more off into Lakemba, Moala, Matuku, and as it moves to the west, the winds will expand to Kandavu, and strong winds will come over the other parts of the country. On the projected path, given that it continues to move at 25 kilometers per hour, it is predicted to be located about 140 kilometers west-southwest of Laos, or about 300 kilometers southeast of Kandavu around 8 p.m. tonight. By 9 p.m. this evening, Gita is expected to be located about 140 kilometers southwest of Laos, or 300 kilometers southeast of Kandavu. By 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, it is expected to be about 240 kilometers west-southwest of Laos, or 250 kilometers southeast of Kandavu. And by 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, expected to be located 280 kilometers southwest of Kandavu. In terms of how does the warnings goes, so now the warnings will extend onto the Kandavu, and this is for the storm force and for the gale force warnings, and these zones will get strong winds. Okay. Warnings that are in force: hurricane and storm warning remains in force for Laos and Vatoa and southern Laos group. The gale warning for the rest of the nearby smaller islands, and strong wind warning for the rest of Fiji. For Laos and Vatoa, they have gone through the about destructive hurricane force winds. They're still continuing to get the storm force winds, and slowly that will recede, and will still have periods of rain frequent and heavy at times. And for the mariners, those who are still within those zones, will experience hurricane force winds with phenomenal seas within 50 nautical miles. Damaging heavy swells and sea flooding of low-lying areas is possible. Now, looking at some wind data, especially when it was approaching the Onelau, at 9 a.m. Onelau got the winds coming from 230 degrees true north with sustained wind of 32 knots and had a maximum gust of 46 knots. Around midday, the sustained wind was about 49 knots and a maximum gust of 72. And at 3 p.m. this afternoon, the wind turned more northwesterly, sustained winds of about 68 knots and gusts of about 84 knots. With Lakemba, Matuku and Vunisea, they are getting more of winds around 20 to 28 knots, except for Vunisea, we're still in light winds. For Lakemba and Matuku at midday, they were reporting about 27 to 25 knots, and again at 3 p.m. around 27 knots. So slowly the winds will pick up around them later this afternoon. This is the graph that we have produced, especially for the average winds at Onelau as Tropical Cyclone Gaeta was approaching, and we saw the average winds kept on increasing, and the maximum was around 2 o'clock. That was about 140 kilometers per hour. The maximum gusts, similarly, as it approached, we saw the maximum gusts keep on increasing, and again the maximum gust was recorded about 2 p.m. this afternoon, and that was about 185 or 190, about 190 kilometers per hour. So for the rest of the Southern Lao group, still they will be experiencing destructive storm force winds, and rain will be still around them, becoming frequent. And for mariners, those who would be around those areas, expect storm force winds and very high seas within 120 nautical miles. Damaging heavy swells and sea flooding of low-lying areas is expected. For the other small islands, damaging gale force winds from this afternoon, and showers increasing and becoming frequent and heavy with thunderstorms, and from this afternoon. And for those in the sea, the gale force winds and high seas could be expected within 240 nautical miles from the center. Next. For rest of Fiji, strong winds, which would be about 45 kilometers per hour to 70 kilometers per hour, and occasional rain increasing to periods to heavy at times and becoming frequent from tomorrow, and strong southerly winds expected and increasing to 25 to 30 knots, becoming gusty with moderate to rough seas, and seas becoming very rough from tomorrow.